Okay, let's move on now to the specific issues and opportunities for social landlords. I just really want to highlight four questions here, which seem to me the obvious questions that any social landlord will want to ask around the Green Deal. So first of all, in terms of finance, is the Green Deal a cost-effective way to fund property improvements? The answer is almost certainly not. It can't possibly make sense because you can borrow money from the Public Works Loan Board if you're a well-run social landlord at the lowest possible interest rates, really. You manage it centrally, you understand the risks, and you can do a good job. So if you want to do a major retrofit programme across your properties, the sensible way forward would be to borrow the money and do a single project rather than having the admin and overhead costs costed into the price of the finance, and that has to be involved one way or another with the Green Deal. So I don't think it's a sensible funding route unless you have particular balance sheet issues or other special requirements that mean you're looking for something off balance sheet of this form. So I don't think we will see the Green Deal as a natural route to funding for most social landlords. Second question, will you lose control of your assets and investment plans if you don't engage? So do you have to become a Green Deal provider to retain control of your housing stock? No, you don't. You can retain control because the Green Deal plan requires the landlord to agree. They have to actually be a signatory to the contract. I'm mentioning this purely because if you went back a year, that clause wasn't in the Green Deal. So it would have been possible. Everyone had the right to have the Green Deal done on their property, and you could quickly end up with lots of Green Deal providers, all with interests and financial arrangements with lots of your tenants, and quite a complex picture emerging. That shouldn't happen now if you're disciplined about it, because you can control where Green Deals happen and where they don't. I guess in practice, we all know in the real world, you acquire new houses, different management comes in, we lose our retention shifts. So over time, I do expect most social landlords will end up, if the Green Deal is a success, they will end up with a multiplicity of Green Deal providers having financial arrangements across their stock. How do you handle that? The kind of thing we've heard about it, some social landlords will simply be offering to do all the maintenance and Green Deal provision for Green Deal providers, maybe on a subcontract basis locally. So you need to start to be imaginative about it. But in principle, you don't lose control of your stocks. That's good news. Next question, how much of this £1.3 billion of eco will be accessible to social landlords? And how easy will the transition from CERT and CESP be? If I do that backwards, I think the transition might be quite difficult simply because the Green Deal's coming together rather late in the day, and we're already into 2012 and expecting this to be in place by the end of the year. So there could be a gap, and budget years tend to start in April, etc. as well. So it won't necessarily be smooth. How much will be accessible? Clearly a lot of lobbying going on to make more accessible to social landlords, but at the moment 25% of the eco subsidy is dedicated to vulnerable households outside the social sector, so that's ruled out. The remaining 75% is targeted at solid wall properties, so the amount that's accessible to you will depend on how many solid wall properties you have in your stock that you want to retrofit, and that could be quite a limited number. Okay, and finally, do you need to procure new suppliers and partners to maintain investment and maintenance programmes in the new framework? No, it's not like solar PV. There was an awful lot of work went on in the last 2 years to procure new solar PV installation companies as people got their minds around that. I think with the Green Deal, most people will be getting into the Green Deal world one way or another, and you will find that your existing construction partners, your existing supply chain should be able to adapt relatively easy at the practical level. You just need to put in place this financial arrangement, which means you have to have a Green Deal provider somewhere, and that might be you. Is the Green Deal the way forward for social landlords, local authorities? From what we know, it may be, the answer is, it may be part of the picture, but it's probably not the place to start. The place to start is with your existing housing stock, your existing tenants, your existing understanding of the buildings, and what needs to happen for those to be the buildings that will be suitable for your tenants in 20, 30, 40, 50 years' time in a much lower carbon world. And once you've understood that, you need to look at the incentive schemes, the subsidies, the policies that are out there, of which there are many more than the Green Deal, And if you knit all of those together in a sensible way, you can probably come up with a package that makes sense for you. And that might include independent funding. You just borrow yourself as well. So it's part of a picture. It's not the whole story. I don't think it ever will be.